Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to share my top 5 fiction books of 2022. Many of you know me here on YouTube as a nonfiction reader, especially because I host an annual event called Nonfiction November, but I do also read fiction. I do enjoy reading fiction. I review fiction books as a freelance reviewer, and this year, I read some great ones. Very quickly before I get started talking about the books, I wanted to let you know that I've ranked them and I've structured this video as a countdown. So I'm going to start off by talking about my 5th favorite, and then work my way up to talking about my number 1 favorite fiction read of the year. So coming in at number 5 is a book that I really enjoyed at the time I read it, but I didn't think it was going to become a favorite book of the year. It was only after more time had passed, after I got more distance from the book, that I could see how much I loved it and appreciated it. It's called When I'm Gone, Look for Me in the East by Quan Barry. In this book, we follow a young Buddhist monk and a small group of people that includes that monk's twin brother as they set off on a journey across Mongolia to try to locate the reincarnation of a religious figure. As that journey is going on, the author also peppers in all these little pieces of Mongolian history, including a lot about the Soviet legacy within Mongolia, which I found very intriguing. It's not exactly subtle the way the author includes all of that, but I didn't even mind it because I felt it really upped the immersion factor of this book. That, in addition to the writing, made you really feel like you were just there with these characters. This book was very spiritual, as you could imagine. It's very cerebral, but honestly, it was really relaxing to read. I felt like I could just sink into this book, and I was really able to dig deep into this book because I wrote a review of this one for the Rumpus. I'm very proud of that piece. I really love how it turned out. And I'm really glad I had it to write because it helped me really examine what the author was doing in this book. It made me pay very close attention. And partially for that reason, this was one of the most unique, one of the most rewarding reading experiences I had all year. And if you would like to read that review in the Rumpus, I will link it for you in the description box below. My 4th favorite fiction book of 2022 is a sequel, and it's a sequel to a Pulitzer Prize winner. It's called The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. This book is the follow-up to A Visit from the Goon Squad, and I found that it does a very similar kind of thing that Goon Squad does. It's basically a collection of interconnected short stories. We follow a very complex web of characters, and it has an overarching message about technology. It's really hard to say more than that about this book because there's so much going on in here. This book expands the universe of the Goon Squad flawlessly. As you're reading this, it really seems like Jennifer Egan intended to write this sequel all along, even though I know that's not true. It's just that she decided that she wanted to write a sequel to a Pulitzer Prize winner and then did it really well. She pulled all of these little details from Goon Squad and she built upon them, or she put them into new context. And it just feels like the two books go completely hand in hand. And for that reason, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you pick up this book if you haven't read A Visit from the Goon Squad, or if you haven't read Goon Squad in a really long time. I think Goon Squad needs to be pretty fresh in your mind if you want to get the most out of this reading experience, because you'll get to see all of the genius decisions that she made throughout this book. I loved it. I thought it was even better than A Visit from the Goon Squad, and I was lucky enough to write a review of this one for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which I will also link for you in the description box below if you want to learn more about this. At number 3 on my list is When We Lost Our Heads by Heather O'Neill, a delectably grotesque novel that reimagines historical figures and events from the French Revolution as it tells the story of 2 young girls, 2 frenemies in industrialization-era Montreal. To me, Heather O'Neill seems like the literary equivalent of Tim Burton. She can take these really disturbing themes and wrap them in cotton candy using her gorgeous language, and it creates these haunting reading experiences that you are very unlikely to forget. And I have not forgotten this one, not even for a second. This book has clung to me the entire year long, and I never want to let it go. My second favorite fiction book of 2022 is Trust by Hernan Diaz. This book begins as a novel within a novel about a fictional power couple who actually made money when the stock market collapsed in 1929, But this book has layers, and in the next one, you learn about the real couple who inspired that first story, and the deeper you go into this book, the closer you get to the truth. This book was such a delicious puzzle. It's like The Big Short meets The Great Gatsby, and it provides so much good food for thought. I had an amazing time reading this, and I seriously lucked out this year because I also got to review this one for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And in that review, my financial industry background definitely entered the chat. I will link that review for you in the description box below if you would like to see what I'm talking about. But then, at last, my favorite fiction book of 2022 is Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angress. This book stars 4 different characters, 3 students and 1 visiting professor from an elite New England art school, and we get to see how their lives intersect at this moment in time in the early 2010s. It was a time during which the Occupy Wall Street movement was going on, social media was beginning to emerge in a very big way, and we get to see how both of those things play a role in the larger messages this author has about art and who owns it. This book is elegant. It is nuanced. It will really make you think. Each one of these characters is deeply flawed, but the author sources those scars. She shows us how these people became the way they are, which allows us as readers to truly know them, whether we like them as people or not. This book just absolutely blew me away. I thought it was flawlessly done. I never wanted it to end, and I am still having such a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that this novel is this author's debut. I can't even begin to imagine what more she has in store if this is where she's starting. It immediately became a new all-time favorite, and it was definitely the best novel I read in 2022. I feel so incredibly grateful that I got to read all 5 of these books this year, and that I got to review 3 out of the 5. I got to review over half of my list this year. I am very, very lucky, but I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these books. Have you read them? Do you want to read them? Do you have any of your own favorites that you would like to share? Please let me know any or all of that in the comment section below. In the description box below, I've linked all of these books, as well as the links to my reviews that I promised you. They are all there for your clicking convenience. If you're on a mobile device, just tap the title of this video and that will expand for you. And at the bottom of that exact same description box, you'll see links to everywhere you can find me around the internets, like Goodreads and Instagram, the 2 places where I'm the most active, in case you want to keep up with what I am reading and writing about right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.